the second book I wrote as a consequence of my feedback that I got while visiting the Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration, where I spoke to officers of different seniorities, and I discovered that a lot of officers who joined with a lot of enthusiasm to begin with and energy when they joined the service, as they went up the ladder, they lost a lot of enthusiasm, they became cynical. And they were blaming the set of circumstances for their lack of enthusiasm and energy. So to counter that, I wrote this book to illustrate that a lot depends on the officer himself, whether he want to continue to be enthusiastic in doing what he has to do. And he can seek inspiration from such officers who have continued to deliver despite the problems that they face. So ethical dilemmas of a civil servant was basically an outcome of this interaction that I had with officers that inspired me to write the book to convey and convince such cynical officers who felt that on account of set of circumstances they could not perform. So these were the two different set of circumstances in which I wrote these two books.
Thanks. Great to know about that, sir. And now I would hand over the floor to Mr. Pradeep ji to ask few questions to sir.
Yeah, thanks Arpita ji for the support, and thanks to all. Sorry for that inconvenience, which actually because of the technical issues. I was going through the book actually, the previous book also and the present book also. Some of the chapters and some of the events actually being mentioned by sir was really, it was inspiring to all of us. I would like to know from you, sir, that which is the best chapter or which is the best incident you mentioned in your this present book? Which one you like the most?
बहुत कठिन सवाल है. आप हलवाई से पूछिए कि कई पूरी जलेबी जो उसने बनाई है कौन सी जलेबी सबसे मीठी है. ये बड़ा मुश्किल है. It is for the reader to decide which he thinks is the best chapter. As far as I'm concerned, I wrote each chapter with as much commitment, and I am fond of each of the chapters. Very difficult for me to say that this is the best chapter of the book. I don't think I can pick up which is the best chapter. I enjoyed writing because it brought back to me some wonderful memories of the time that I spent as a civil servant. To me, it was an extremely enjoyable experience because the civil service itself was an enjoyable experience. As I've written in my first book, that if I were to be born again and if I could qualify, it's very difficult to qualify now though, I would like to be an IAS officer all over again because I enjoyed every moment as a civil servant. So that being the case, the enjoyment was very fulfilling, and it was as fulfilling and as enjoyable to pen those experiences down in the form of these two books that I did. So very difficult for me to pinpoint and say, this is the best chapter of the book.
In a book, there was mentioning of one of the best, you can say, incident wherein it happened with sir, some of the colleagues with the sir. The person who was not actually getting a promotion, or the person who was not getting a transfer because of you can say hierarchy of that particular organization are there. In one of that particular incident, I do mention that some probationary you can say bureaucrat has joined, and he was not getting a promotion. Why? You know why? Because he was not agreeing to marry one of the fellow, you can say, fellow bureaucrat or the top level bureaucrat. He was trying to marry him with her daughter actually.
Let me narrate the incident.
Yeah.
Okay, let me narrate the incident. This was very interesting. It was right in the beginning of my career. When I was posted as a trainee in a district called Fatehpur, my district magistrate was so happy with my work that he gave me an independent assignment as subdivisional magistrate, which is normally not done. Normally, trainees are not assigned subdivisionals, but he appeared to be some happy, and that's another chapter in my book, why he became happy. But I completed my training and I went to Hardoi. My batchmate who had completed his training along with me had subsequently got posted to Fatehpur, and under the normal dispensation, he should have been made a subdivisional magistrate. I was explaining to you why my successor or person who had been fully trained in the service was not given the subdivision. we later discovered that my boss's boss, that is the commissioner of the division, who was the boss of the district magistrate, who was my boss's boss, commissioner, had a daughter. And he had sent in a proposal for my successor to marry him. And he was unable to decide because he wanted to take time. And consequent to which, he was not given a subdivision. So it can happen in life. There are circumstances beyond your control. Of course, we put up pressure as an association and finally saw to it that he got the subdivision. But it was quite a funny reason for him not to get a subdivision. That's, in life, sometimes there are issues over which you have no control. They're there. You have to somehow manage what you have and do the best that you can do. There's no point in cribbing over it. As I keep saying, there are many, many such things over which you have absolutely no control. But if you focus on issues over which you have control, you will have a much better life.
Agreed.
Yeah, that is what, and that is why the dilemma comes in whenever we are into the service. May I know, sir, how other dilemmas or how the dimensions of dilemmas as a civil servant or as a bureaucratic? Because
there are many. There are political dilemmas because a politician would want something, you would want something else. And that's a huge dilemma because you think what you say is right. But sometimes you have to accommodate what the minister is saying. You have to go by what he's saying. But that's a huge dilemma. In some cases, for example, in one of the cases mentioned in my book, Ethical Dilemmas, when the chief minister was sent across a message through his special secretary that 3 of my officers have to be suspended, I preferred not to suspend them and chose to get transferred out. Didn't pursue his order. I don't know whether that was right or wrong because chief minister was well within his rights to get officers suspended. But then you have to take a call. In another case also, I tried to protect a deputy director and I was transferred out and I tried to protect him. I managed to protect him. He was not suspended, but the minister got to speak to the chief minister and he got me transferred out. And then the chief secretary asked me, why did you not suspend that officer? At least you would not have been transferred. I said there was nothing wrong in what he did. And it's there in my book. So why should I suspend him? And then he said, but you got transferred. I said, transfer is a very natural thing for a civil servant. It's like death. It is inevitable. It will happen. Why do you worry about it? And if you believe in Hindu philosophy, you'll be born again. You'll transfer me somewhere else. I'll continue to do the work that I'm doing. So why should I suspend the officer? So you face those dilemmas and you take a call. You take a call whether you want to do this. Actually, ethical dilemmas is basically your understanding of what is right and what is wrong. If you feel a particular thing is right, you may do it, you may not do it. It's your choice. And as I say in my book, it is not necessary for everyone to do what I tell him to do. Everyone, he or she has to make his own choice and then face the consequences of the decisions that they take. It's your choice. That's why in the beginning when I said, I can ask you to come forth and open your videos, but finally it's your choice. You have the button with you whether you want to reveal your identity or not. It's totally up to you. If you don't want to reveal it, I can't do anything. I would not want to do anything also, but I can only request you that it is in your own good that don't hide behind a curtain. Open yourself. Come open to before the world. You will get to know better of yourself. You'll be able to do yourself.
Okay. Moving on to next, actually, you had been to the education department and you had been to the coal ministry. Of course, the toughest time was, I do agree that the coal allocation and the coal ministry was. But before that, I would like to, we would like to know more about how that education paradigm shift during your period when you were there as an education secretary. How
So when I was posted as coal secretary, a lot of things had gone wrong with coal sector, but I was not fully conversant with the sector. So I rang up a friend of mine to ask him, "Yaar, ye sector kaisa hai?" So instead of answering my question, he asked me a question. Gangs of Wasseypur dekhi hai kya? So I think that answered the question, and I knew what coal sector was. But I somehow, along with I was fortunate to have a very nice team. So we sorted most of the problems of the coal sector, and then I was transferred to Education Ministry, where I spent around 20 months. Here, it was very interesting because in coal sector, all the mafias were overground and the mining was underground. In education sector, all the mafias were underground. In fact, they were not visible as mafias. They were masquerading as nice, good people, but they were destroying education big time. So much of my time in education was spent in grappling with these mafias. And there are 2-3 chapters in my book where I talk about some of these mafias, including the publishing mafia, the school mafia, and the worst of them all, which occupies one full chapter, is the B.Ed and D.Ed colleges mafia. And they are very, very strong people. In fact, they ensured that one very senior officer had to resign from the civil service. The other set of mafia, of school mafias, they saw that the chairman of CBSE was transferred. So these are very powerful people. And another mafia wanted to take care of the successor of CBSE chairman. At that point in time, I had matured sufficiently in the education department, and I saw to it that she was not sacrificed. I'm thankful to that because she's now Secretary of Education, Government of India. So there were challenges, variety of challenges, mafias the one had to handle with, but I enjoyed grappling with them.
During your tenure only, the draft of NEP has been actually formulated. And in particular, NEP also, we frame out regarding the vocational kind of things and the life skills too. I do request you to actually throw some of the insights and some of your views regarding our new education policy.
Okay, I did not have much of a contribution to new education policy because though I was there as Secretary of Education, it was formulated by a committee headed by Dr. Rangarajan. It is true that some of what I have written in my book has been incorporated in the national education policy because I was advocating that. I'm not going into the details of it because it requires another hour for me to explain what is there in the national education policy. When Dr. Rangarajan came to meet me, I had a different approach to him. I told him, along with the national education policy, you must have an action plan because the country has too many action policies. There's no shortage of policies in the country. The problem is regarding action on the ground. The common man is not bothered about what policy I have. He's bothered about what actually happens on the ground. So I suggested to him that along with the policy, you should have an action plan clearly outlining what needs to be done, how it will be done, and by when it will be done. So the approach to education policy, Mr. Sudhir, can you? Yeah, thank you. So the approach of the education policy, I like it. The document is very good. It has touched upon some very critical issues which I had been raising from time to time, some of which get reflected in my book, Ethical Dilemmas of a Civil Servant. They have incorporated a number of those in the policy, which I think is one of the finest policies. My only apprehension about the policy is when, how it will be implemented, because it is easy to have an idea in this country, and a policy is a conglomeration of ideas. It's ideas articulated in a particular format. But to make things happen in the country, any idea or set of ideas have to be politically acceptable, socially desirable, technologically feasible, financially viable, administratively doable, and judicially tenable. It's a handful. The good news is that certainly the policy is politically acceptable. It is certainly socially desirable. There is no problem with technological feasibility, but whether there is money enough to implement the provisions of the policy, I doubt whether there is, because the policy recommends 6% of the GDP to be allocated to education. I don't think that's going to happen because it has not happened. A few decades ago, there was already a recommendation of 6%, and maximum that education sector has had is 3.1%. So I don't see that 6% coming in. And without the money to back the recommendations, I think most of the recommendations, it will be difficult to implement them.
And what are your suggestions into implementation? Government has rolled out certain kind of, you can say, open forum by which people can actually give a mandate how to actually implement. How much feasible this is actually?
There are certain parts of the policy which do not require too much financial intervention. Provisions relating to teachers, they do not require too much money, and so they can be easily implemented. Important point is that teachers are the pivot of school education. If the problems or issues relating to teachers can be sorted out, much of the problem with school education can be handled. So the focus would be and should be on such issues where there is not too much financial commitment. So when they say that one of the biggest mafia, as I said, was run by B.Ed and D.Ed colleges, the policy recommends that there should be a 4-year B.Ed course, and that will be beneficial to everyone. the sooner it is implemented, the better it is. I had recommended that when I was Secretary of Education, and I'm glad it is a part of the policy. Similarly, the policy talks about a separate examination for recruiting of teachers in government schools. I don't know whether you are aware that one of the former chief ministers is behind the bars for racket in school teacher selections. So if they have a transparent and objective selection of teachers, it would certainly help you have better teachers. Then the policy also talks about training of teachers. Now, all this does not require too much financial intervention. So my hope is that they will be able to implement that part easily as compared to some other parts which require a lot of money. I think we are closing on 12 o'clock, so I'd like to leave at 12 o'clock. If there are any other questions I'd like to answer.
I request others, those who are having some of the queries or some of the questions in their mind, two or the three questions, so that sir can take any one of you, if you are having any of the queries.
I would like.
Yeah, please.
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Archana Singh, International Peak Performance Strategist, and I have been a teacher before. And what I have seen in society, in educational system, is there's too much pressure on teachers for result, which at the cost of students' behavior, ethical behavior, teachers' ethical behavior of the management. The only focus is given onto the result. Can't we do anything about it? Like, we are not at the cost of students' behavior, at the cost of their moral development, at the cost of their socialistic development, or the cost of their physical development. We are only looking at the result of the child. All give a best result, but after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, they are into depression. They are not able to achieve anything. So can't we do anything about it? And the teachers are being pressurized a lot.
Archana, have you read my book?
Not yet, sir. I have just purchased it.
Do that. If you do that, you will find some answers to your question. Let me explain. I totally agree with you, and I have mentioned that. You know, as Secretary of School Education, I tried to do something about it, because when I joined as Secretary of Education, I discovered that children were getting 100 out of 100 in English literature, and I was shocked. I call it a farcical delusion in my book, and I recently wrote an article also on it. And I tried to correct it. I called all the board officials, all the chairmen of the board to Delhi, and had a discussion with them. And they told me a very interesting thing. They said, this farce is continuing because it benefits everyone. The child is happy, the teacher is happy, the principal is happy, the school is happy, politicians are happy, everyone is happy. So they are living in this illusion. And what they do is, if they get 85% marks, board will spike another 10-11%, and he or she will be shown as 96%. Everyone is happy. So when everyone is happy, how do you correct it? Yet I convinced them. I convinced that we can't allow this farcical delusion to continue. So we decided, and we took out a circular, and 2 of the boards did not spike marks that year. However, some of my own friends, colleagues, their daughters and sons were appearing in class 12. They started ringing me up. Sir, agle saal se kar lijiyega aise. Is saal meri ladki. I convinced them also. So we went ahead. But what ultimately happened was, some people went to the High Court, and High Court granted a stay order. So I was shocked. I asked my advocate to tell the High Court, either you say it is wrong or it is right. Why stay order? The stay order was because Mr. Anil Swarup was to retire in the next 3 months. And then the farcical delusion could continue. This year again, I saw many children getting 100 out of 100 in English literature. And because, see, if the society as a whole wants to continue to be in a mess, then you and I cannot do much. But what can you do? That's what is suggested in my book. And I'm glad some of it has been picked up by the policymakers in the National Education Policy. The National Education Policy says they went into the root cause of this spiking. This spiking happened because admission to Delhi University and another good university is based on the marks that you get in class 12. Now the policy says that it will not be based on that marks, there will be an entrance test. So the cause of that problem will go. Now these are very, very difficult issues because the society accepts them. When a society accepts that, then to bring about a change is difficult, but I'm glad some effort has been made. So Mr. Singh, I think it's already 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure amidst you all. My suggestion to some of you is that first of all, you must have the courage to show your face. And secondly, if you find time, if you read Ethical Dilemmas of a Civil Servant, probably it will give you a reason to reveal yourself.
Okay.
Okay,
Sir,
thank you very much.
Sir, I would
Yes.
like to say a few words about you. You know, while listening to you, I have some thought process. And this time, I would like to say something about you. So, some dedicated lines from my side to you.
Go ahead.
I am not my face. I am what I make of myself. An everyday warrior inspiring us and millions across the country. I express a very, very hearty word of thanks to you for accepting our invitation and being with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. God bless you. Take care.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for enlightening all of us. On a closing note, I must say that, of course, dilemmas are there in your life also, in your education also, and in your professional life too. Do go with this book being written by Sri Anil Swarup sir, and you will find certain solutions into this. I must say that please go ahead and please do read this book. You can book this. Even you can download this book by the Kindle, or you can order it through the online by paying 200 rupees bucks of that. Yeah, 2 days back only I have actually went through this book, and I ordered this one to online mode, and it's in my mobile still. And if you are able to go with this, please you can move ahead with the online kind of things.